I'm going to tell you something. If you two ever bother me again the rest of my life, I ain't giving them that. I can't. There's a good friends of mine out there say, well, he's the boss, you have to do his stuff. That's why I said to you before, you don't understand what the boss for me is that the boss is your boss.
And welcome to Mob Talk Radio. I am your host, Jeff Canarsie. And today, there's a little Ndrangheta news that was probably broken a couple of days ago. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up this screen really quick. All right, let me see if I can. That one. All right, there we go. So we're going to be talking about Ndrangheta a little bit, as you can see. It says cocaine and ice cream, which we're going to talk about today. If you're new here, do us a favor. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We will be live possibly later on tonight. I got to see how much time that I have. And if we do, it'll probably be about 8:30 or so. So with that, we're going to get into a couple of things here. Number one, there was a news article that came out about 3 Ndrangheta associates arrested for money laundering in the ice cream business. And you heard that right, because apparently Ndrangheta isn't just allegedly the worldwide leader in the narco trade, according to authorities, but apparently they're the Ben and Jerry of organized crime as well. So a few days ago, 3 alleged Ndrangheta associates were arrested in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is in Germany, and were charged with money laundering. The investigators claim that the 3 men owned and operated a lucrative ice cream parlor in the area and were siphoning funds through that parlor in an effort to launder money from drug transactions. According to the allegations, the 3 men ran and operated the parlor for a high-ranking member of Ndrangheta. According to the investigators, this high-ranking member dumped almost $500,000 into the ice cream business. In return, the parlor acted as a business front to both deal narcotics and to launder profits from the narcotics trade. It's long been asserted that Ndrangheta has a base of operations just outside of that city in Germany, and the funds from that parlor were daily distributed to its members of Ndrangheta back in Italy. And what's sort of comical, if we can say there's anything comical about this, is that this ice cream parlor was under surveillance, and it was rarely busy, yet astonishingly was making over $20,000 a week for close to 3 years. And I guess the accountant was a little bots, as we say over here. But the 3 men were charged with being members of a criminal foreign organization since 2016. And that law is very similar to the gangsterism law that we see over in Canada and the United Kingdom. And that law makes it illegal to be a member of any organized criminal group, and is fully punishable from 6 months to 5 years in prison. Commercial money laundering, which is another charge, is also punishable by 6 months to 10 years. So this investigation began, excuse me, in 2020, launched by the Italian authorities, which included a cross-border collaboration, which is mainly how the Italians in the Italian state and the authorities conducts its investigations these days. Belgium, France, Italy, Portugal, and Spain were all included in this investigation. And authorities would find burner cells, crypto phones, and the authorities were able to crack the phones through a European EncroChat system and Sky CC, which is similar to like what WhatsApp is over here. They were able to see chat logs, and it enabled authorities to see the inner workings, not of just these 3 men, but the clans in other places in Europe. And this is another example of Ndrangheta and their worldwide grip on organized crime. Just 3 weeks ago, reports surfaced that the Albanian Mafia has joined forces with Ndrangheta now, and that they are an integral player in the narcotics trades. Albania is ranked by Transparency International as the most corrupt country in Europe. And so some of you may not understand what Ndrangheta is, or what the major difference is, say, between Sicilian Cosa Nostra and Ndrangheta and the Camorra and etc. And without confusing you, I don't want to go into a whole entire narrative here. So I am going to pop up another photo really quick. Let's see. Did not upload it. So give me 1 second. There we go. Pull this over here. Now, this is going to be a little convoluted, and I'm not going to go through it because all it's simply going to do is confuse the living shit out of every single one of you. And I don't really want to do that. There are other people that are a lot smarter than me that could probably dissect what you're seeing on the screen now. So Ndrangheta has been around since 1860, and it originally began in Calabria. And instead of the Sicilian mob, which their hierarchy is vertical, Ndrangheta is horizontal with many more positions within the family. In the 1950s, Ndrangheta began the expansion outside of Calabria. It can be found almost everywhere, including the United States. Its membership alone. Now, these numbers, I don't know how exact they are. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but here you go. The membership alone is staggering with an estimated 10,000 made men and 60,000 associates. It's not too hard to believe when you look at a map of the world and you see where they're located. All right. So what you're seeing on the screen, Sinista, Vangelo, Tre Quartino, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of that and explain it, but you guys all know, especially with Cosa Nostra, you know, boss, underboss, consigliere, captains, you know, soldiers. This is insane. Sinista, Vangelo, Quartino, Padrino, Crociata, Stella, Bartolo, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And there's like 100 different positions. It's insane. And this is one of the reasons why authorities are having such a hard time identifying who's who. So this is a little map that I made earlier that you guys can, it's kind of cool to do this actually. It's a little map where what I did was I took a map of Italy and all the towns and then colorized it so you guys could see where all of the different mob factions are actually located. And of course, I could have gone like a lot further than this, but I wanted to keep it as basic as I could. And if you guys look, what red represents right up in here is Cosa Nostra, Sicilian Cosa Nostra as we know it. Down here, you have Sicily, right? That's all Cosa Nostra. And Ndrangheta, as you can see here, is in the green. And Ndrangheta is flanked on the right-hand side by Sacra Corona, and then they're flanked by the Camorra. Now, if you look up here in Milan, this is actually very new because typically Milan was a Camorra / Cosa Nostra territory. But what we're finding out now is if I could have multicolored this, which it wouldn't allow me to do, it would have all of the colors because they're all there now and they're all working together with Ndrangheta. Yes, there are other places on this map that are integral, but I just thought it was interesting to show you just the sheer amount of territory that they control. And it's a lot more, I think, deeper than this, but I didn't want to just start coloring things 15 different colors and then have to go through each one. So as you can see, in the red, Cosa Nostra, in the orangish color is Camorra, in the blue is Sacra Corona, and in the green is Ndrangheta. And what's interesting about this is if you look at the sheer mileage of all of this, and I'll just pop this up a little bit, and the sheer sort of mileage of this, Ndrangheta does not control the most mileage. They really don't. It's actually Cosa Nostra does, but it just shows you the sheer power of Ndrangheta. And never mind Canada. I mean, we could have done Canada, we could have done other countries, but just the sheer amount of turf that Ndrangheta controls is pretty insane. And especially in Italy, the fact that they don't control nearly the amount of mileage, but yet are the overwhelming force, so much so that everyone else is joining forces with them, sort of tells you a lot about who they are in general. So let me go back to one other thing really quick. Give me 1 second. All right. So Ndrangheta has what we call, or what I call, specifically splinter cells, right? Which are called Ndrina. Think of them as smaller clans functioning throughout Italy. And this is where the numbers get weird. It's said that Ndrangheta has north of 100 families operating, and each family contains 4,000 to 5,000 members. And this is in Calabria alone. Now, what's crazy about that is Calabria isn't like the biggest place in the world, and they have 100 families there. I mean, just this. And listen, this number came directly from like authorities and law enforcement, so we don't know how accurate that really is. But that's like 1 in 3 people is an organized crime member in Calabria. That's fucking insane to me. But perhaps the biggest difference, say, between Cosa Nostra that we talk about on this show and Ndrangheta is sort of the hierarchy. You guys can type in, Ndrangheta hierarchy. We just showed a photo of it a few minutes ago. But the biggest difference is Ndrangheta is blood related. Now there are marriages, but it's always connected through blood. And most of Ndrangheta, and this is the strange part, they come from the same bloodline, meaning they can trace back everybody within their crime family being related. Whereas Cosa Nostra really does not rely on that. Also, we know Ndrangheta did not form a commission until 1991. And while their beliefs are a little bit similar, Ndrangheta takes their beliefs seriously and are insanely hardcore about it. They are a different animal. Whereas Sicilians tend to let certain attributes fall to the side, Ndrangheta doesn't. As the Sicilians, as Sicilians, we know have a commission and they have their meetings. What's different about Ndrangheta is once a year, all of the heads of Ndrangheta are called to explain themselves at a meeting called a crimine. They have to explain what they've done, why they did it, who they killed, why they killed them, who they kidnapped, why they kidnapped them, position changes, and etc. And this meeting is also used for disputes, and it's also used for local citizens to make requests. A little bit different than organized crime that we talked about before. Let me pull up something else. Hopefully I have it loaded. If not, I'll just click that. Give me 1 second. This is something that may shock a lot of you. And this is also something I don't think a lot of you know about. At least I've never heard anybody talk about it before. Okay. All right. There is a secret society within Ndrangheta itself. So you have Ndrangheta, then you have another small, very secret society within that society. It's very odd, but a lot of people don't know about it. It's called La Santa. And this group is secretive and do not know who is a member unless they're at this meeting. It's a segmented, hidden group within the group who use that formation to consult dignitaries, politicians, and more. Police, politicians, and more. This is where, think of it, I hate to use the term Masons, but think of it like the Masons of organized crime. They're a group within a group, and this is how they get political things done, which is kind of creepy. And there's not a lot of information about it, but they do know it exists. So the commission version of Ndrangheta is based on 3 different families and divided by turf. Let me go back to one more photo here for a second. There we go. All right, so the commission, as far as Ndrangheta goes, their version of that is based on 3 families and is divided by turf. The commission is called the Matamenti. One of the clans is on the iconic side, which is the Aspromonte Mountains and Locride of Calabria. The second is the Tyrrhenian side, which is the plains of Toro. And then they have one central Matamento for the city of Calabria. So it's split into 3s. Like I said, the one on the left is basically the Aspromonte Mountains. The second is the Tyrrhenian side of the plains. And then the third is the central Matamanto for the city of Reggio Calabria. And that's who dictates what happens. As for Canada, for decades, the Ndrangheta families of Saderno operating in Canada, and there's about 7 families there, have been governed by a board of directors called the Camera di Controllo, or the Chamber of Control. And the local board, as in other countries around the world and other regions of Italy where the clans have spread, have all been subservient to the mother clans of Calabria under a body known Il Crimine di Saderno. So in other words, the heads of Saderno. So even in Canada, they're taking orders from people in Calabria. And what makes this very interesting is we haven't really talked about Frank Cali on this show a whole lot, but what's very interesting about Frank Cali is he wasn't just an alleged boss of the Gambino crime family. He was also considered a boss in Italy. He had a whole entire wing of the Gambino crime family, allegedly in Italy. That is, no other American boss has ever done that before. So what are we talking about when we talk about the numbers? So this is based on a file from 2007. So keep in mind, this is very old. So the numbers are probably 10 times the size they are. As far as drug trafficking, according to the turnover rate of Ndrangheta numbers wise financially in 2007, $27 billion in drugs, $5.7 billion in commercial enterprise and public contracts, $5 billion in extortion, $2 billion in arms trafficking, prostitution and human trafficking, $2 billion, for a total of almost $44 billion a year. And this was in 2007. It's 2024. So I think we can push that north. And I think the last thing I saw, it was something close to $250 billion a year. That pales in comparison. I don't think that the American mafia made $250 billion throughout history. Maybe close, but still, it just shows you the sheer amount of money. They operate in Albania, Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, United States, Colombia, Germany, the Netherlands, Malta, Mexico, Slovakia, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, Greece, Russia, Spain, and the Mideast. And so one thing you're going to say is, but if they ever been here in the United States, they are, but they're not here in the way that you would suspect. But in 2014, the FBI and Italian police force ran a joint operation named Newbridge, and they intercepted the transatlantic networks of the United States Italian crime families, the United States and Italian crime families. And the raid targeted the Gambino and Bonanno families in the United States, while in Italy, it targeted the Ursino and Ndrangheta. And the defendants were charged with drug trafficking, money laundering, firearms, based in part on their participation in a transnational heroin and cocaine trafficking conspiracy involving Ndrangheta. And the operation began in 2012 when investigators detected a plan by members of the Ursino clan of the Ndrangheta to smuggle large amounts of drugs. An undercover agent was dispatched to Italy and was successful in infiltrating the clan. An undercover agent was also involved in the handover of 1.3 kilos of heroin in New York as part of the infiltration operation. In June 2018, according to a Mafia expert, a new alliance between the Bonanno's associates of the Violi family is significant because it suggests a growing prominence for the Calabrian Mafia or the Ndrangheta within the New York families and in Canada. Criminologist Annie Sergi of the University of Essex added that drug trafficking was the most active pursuit in North America. So that's a little small portion of Ndrangheta. Like I said, I could do 3 shows on this, but it's interesting to see that Americanized mob families are now aligning with Ndrangheta, and they almost have to in a way, because if you have any acumen, you cannot rely on just the things going on in your country. One of the things that made Francesco Cali so powerful wasn't the fact that he controlled all of the produce in the city. It was the power he had overseas. He was actually, and there's FBI files and there was video footage. He actually participated in an induction ceremony in Italy. Now, name me another American mob boss that got on a plane, went to Italy, and oversaw an induction ceremony in another country. There, because you're not going to tell me anybody, because there is nobody. But Ndrangheta is this is just a small part of a much bigger criminal faction than anybody would ever understand. It is what it is. And it's funny because I remember when I was reporting on this a couple of years ago, everybody said I was a liar, right? Because this is what a lot of people like to do. He lies. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Where does he get his information? Yet I was the first one to come out and be talking about Ndrangheta a couple of years ago. Nobody really talks about them now. And look at the sheer numbers they have. They're like fleas. They started out in Calabria and expanded outward, and now they are the controlling faction of organized crime in the world. And they're dangerous. But the one thing that Ndrangheta has started to do, because we talked about this on another show, is one thing that they're now doing is they're getting away from the traditional stuff like the extortion, and their prime focus is money laundering, tax fraud, and everything else. They're evolving. And that's the death of American Cosa Nostra, is that they haven't been able to evolve. Yeah, you've got, as long as Manhattan, as long as we got construction, bid rigging's always going to exist. As long as we have gambling, like the people that continue to say gambling's dead, it's not. And I've always said you'll never get the mob out of gambling, because you go into a casino and you try to borrow on credit, they're not going to let you do it. And there's a lot of people that are check to check that are fucking degenerate gamblers who have to borrow on credit. And as long as you can borrow on credit, the mob is never going to lose that foothold. So when people say, oh, the gambling portion, because everything's legalized, that kills the mob. Did they lose money? Absolutely. Of course they did. Because now they're not the only people you can gamble with. I get it. But at the same time, you're never going to eradicate that. And people that say that are ill-informed and really, honestly, are ineffectual. Completely ineffectual, and don't understand it. If it's not locked down, they're going to take it. That's what organized crime is. It's all about making money. So here in New York, you're always going to have extortion, shakedowns, unions, and all of that. But if you look at Ndrangheta, one of the unique things that they did, especially during the pandemic, was with all of the land that was abandoned, all of the buildings that were abandoned, Ndrangheta stepped in and bought and now control. Ndrangheta controls the banks that they launder the money through. They are a very sophisticated group. They're a very dangerous group. But at the same time, they've evolved into something much bigger. And I'm sure it'll take no time for the government to label them terrorists, I'm sure, because that seems to get, more focal or more focus. So that's just a little bit about Ndrangheta. It's an interesting group. Like I said, if you're interested in looking at how the hierarchy and the structure works, you can go on to Google Images or whatever it is and look that up for yourself. But the fact that they are controlling Canada now, and I listen, I know there's people out there that say, oh, well, the bikers control Canada. That is not true at all. Unequivocally not true. 100%. Dummies say that. It's just not even true. Ndrangheta is the force in Canada. Ndrangheta wanted to oust all of the Sicilians. That's just what they want to do, because they want to control everything. And the situation that you're seeing in Canada is over turf. And it's going to be narcotics and tobacco. That's the big thing. Narcotics and tobacco. That's what they're going to argue about. That's what they're fighting about. And the murders aren't going to stop there. They're just not going to stop there, because there has to be one winner. And the Rizzutos are still clinging on to whatever they have left. But for anybody to say the bikers control Canada are off their rocker, because they don't understand either the economics or they don't understand what's actually going on there. You might have to know somebody there to sort of understand the dynamics that are going on. So that's just a little bit about Ndrangheta. A lot of people don't talk about Ndrangheta at all. I don't know why. It seems a little more interesting to me than the stuff that I do see being put out, where people are, once again talking about Roy DeMeo. Once you kind of do that once, it's over with. But the inner workings and the politics of Ndrangheta are very interesting too. And that's one of the things we try to do on this show all the time is talk about the politics, which nobody does. We're the only ones that do it. But once again, like I said, I appreciate you all joining in. Do us a favor, please hit the like. Please share the show. Donate if you want. You can go into our YouTube under thanks and thank us for this video. And once again, we do our research here 100%. Don't invent anything. It's all research backed by paperwork. And just to let everybody know, this is kind of a parting thought. At least I can ride a roller coaster because I meet the height requirement. Just thought I would say that. Anyway, if we are going to do a live tonight, we'll be back on about 8:30. Not sure what the topic will be. It'll be an open forum, I'm sure. But give me a couple hours to figure this out. And about 7 o'clock, head over to YouTube and click the live portion or the live tab. And if we're going to be live, something will be there. If you don't see anything there, it means I'm not going live. Have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers. We'll talk soon.